My parents threw a big birthday party because my sister insisted on humiliating me, but I got ahead of her, and now everyone saw the photos from her phone. Hello, I'm Dixie, and I'm 18 years old. I'm a woman, and I have an older sister named Betton who is 20. Unlike other stories I've read, Betton has characteristics that make my parents see her as the golden child. It's not just a superficial reason, she has it all. She's super pretty, super smart, was president of the student council, and even was prom queen. She was always the star that everyone admired. Meanwhile, I do okay in school, but I don't really care about extracurricular activities, which my parents love, so you can see who their favorite is. We have a strange situation with birthdays. My birthday is just 2 days after Betton's, so every year they would throw a huge party for her, inviting all her friends, extended family, everyone. It was a big event with decorations, cake, gifts, everything. But when it came to my birthday, they'd say we can't invite anyone so soon again, and I'd end up with a little celebration that wasn't worth mentioning. It's not that they did nothing for me, but I always felt like they didn't want me to steal the spotlight during Betton's week. Yes, Betton's birthdays lasted a whole week because they were so important to them. To give you more context, my relationship with Betton was strange. Sometimes she acted like I didn't exist, but other times, she could really be a witch. But then, about a week before Betton's last birthday, something totally unexpected happened. She started showing interest in my life. For once, she actually asked me how I was doing, what was going on with me. We talked for a few hours. I began sharing some things that bothered me while she shared some of her anxieties, like how anxious she felt with college approaching. I even mentioned that I was considering seeing a therapist because, well, I think I needed it. It felt like we were connecting. I thought it was because I was going to college and she didn't want us to part on bad terms. Maybe she had matured. So, naturally, when my birthday arrived, I was excited. I thought, hey, maybe this year will be different. Betton insisted that I should have a big birthday party because I was turning 18 and going to college, and to my surprise, my parents agreed. They got really involved, and for the first time, I wasn't going to be forgotten. I invited all my friends, family, basically everyone I could think of, and everyone came. Betton was even making a super cool video for me that she planned to show on the giant TV during the party. She said it would be the highlight of the night. Everything was going great. I thought this was the birthday I had always dreamed of. But then reality hit hard. During the party, my Aunt Ruby, who's 45, pulled me aside, and I thought she was just going to say something like, "Happy birthday." Instead, she had something else in mind. She asked if I needed help with anything, and I was confused. What do you mean? Apparently, Betton had shown her this video she made of me talking about my anxiety and how I was thinking about seeing a therapist, basically everything I had shared with her. Not only did she record me without my permission, but now she wanted to show it to everyone. I was so mad, I didn't know what to do with myself. Then it got worse. Aunt Ruby told me that Betton had a bunch of other videos too. Videos where I talked about my crushes, some awkward dates I'd had, private stuff I thought was mine. My sister wanted to pull one last prank by throwing my privacy out the window. To be honest, at that moment, I was beyond furious. I wanted to do something. Something to make her feel what I was feeling, so I decided to go into revenge mode. Betton has a secret Instagram account. You know, one she uses for all her private stuff. She even has one specifically for her parents and family, but I never had access to it. But as I said, I was mad, and I was going to make sure she knew how it felt. So, I did what any vengeful sister would do. I stole her phone. I know, stealing is wrong, but you don't deal with people like this by being nice. Her password was super easy to guess. I mean, really easy. It was her birthday. So, I logged into her secret Instagram and there was her whole hidden life, the one she thought no one knew about. I grabbed all the photos from her account, pictures of her partying, kissing guys, and even one where she kissed a girl. It's like she was this perfect and untouchable person in the family, and now I had something to use against her. So, what did I do? I took those photos and showed them to everyone at the party through the TV, and it was worth it because I felt a kind of satisfaction seeing her face turn red as people started to see her secret life. And here we are. My parents are furious, Beaton is furious, and I honestly am just fine with what happened. I mean, yeah, I have a vindictive streak, but it's not like I exposed anything really harmful. They were just her little secrets that she thought she could hide from everyone, but now the whole family knows everything. Yes, I probably shouldn't have gone that far, but in that moment, I felt it was a way to get back at her for betraying my trust. Was it over the line? Did I go too far by exposing her secrets, or was it a justified response to her betrayal? I know I can't count on my family for an objective answer. I know my parents would either support or downplay what she did, while what I did is a capital sin in their eyes. Update 1. It has been exactly 1 week since my last post, and with everything that has happened in my story, it's time to provide an update. I think if I wait any longer, it'll turn into a very long post. I thought after a few days things would go back to normal. I mean, it's not like I killed my sister's kitten, I just showed photos of her partying. Maybe some awkwardness, a few tense conversations, and then life would go on. But no. My parents went nuclear. Completely furious in a way that there's no turning back from. After the incident, my parents were mad at both of us. You'd think they'd at least listen to me and understand why I did what I did, but no. In their eyes, I committed a crime against humanity by exposing this dirty secret of my sister. The comments think that my parents might be even angrier about the kiss with a girl than the others, but I think what bothers them most is the fact that she is kissing different people. Those are the family secrets they want to keep from the rest. The irony is that Bitan did exactly the same thing to me, but worse, because she filmed me without my consent and was ready to publicly humiliate me. But somehow, that didn't matter. What mattered was that I exposed the golden child. My mom was screaming about how embarrassed she was for Batten, which is fine. I get that. Some of those photos were too wild. Whatever. But let's be real, this wouldn't have been a problem if our family wasn't so traditional. But instead of focusing on how bad it was for Beta to violate my trust first, they turned against me. They claimed I was just as bad for doing something so vindictive and embarrassing the family in front of all our relatives. My dad thinks that's not how we handle problems in this family. But what am I supposed to do when every time I try to address things the right way, they ignore me? When I try to tell them how I feel, they brush me off? I'm the one causing the drama. And now apparently, when I get a tiny bit of justice, I'm the one ruining the family's reputation. So they dropped the bomb. I'm being kicked out. Yes, they actually said that. My dad told me directly that I had a week to find a place to stay because they couldn't have someone who doesn't respect the family living under their roof. At first, I thought they were lying, saying that in a moment of anger. But they said it seriously. I tried to explain my side again, but they wouldn't accept it. My mom kept shaking her head saying, "You crossed the line, Dixie. You don't do that to your own sister." But here, I don't see them throwing Batten out of the house. Just me. By the way, I haven't even tried to defend myself. Not that I expected to, but part of me thought maybe I'd feel some guilt. But no, she's just crying, playing the victim, acting like I ruined her life. I heard her tell my mom that she didn't even want to hurt me, and that the video she made was supposed to be something fun and lighthearted, as if showing everyone my private thoughts, my anxieties, crushes, and personal struggles was something to laugh about. And the worst part? My parents believed her. My mom said, "No, she wasn't trying to humiliate you, Dixie. It was just a mistake." Oh, so she makes a mistake and gets sympathy, but I get punished for getting revenge? How does that make sense? So now I have a week to figure out what to do. I was supposed to take a gap year before college. I'm still waiting for my acceptance. So it's not like I can just pack up and leave for a dorm. I have a job, but it's not enough to pay for a place of my own, not even a small studio. I have some money saved up, but again, it's nowhere near enough for a rental deposit and, survival. I'm terrified. I've honestly never lived alone before, and I have no idea how I'm going to make this work. I guess I could try to stay with a friend, but that's a long shot. Most of my friends still live with their parents, and I doubt their families would be excited to take someone else in, especially with the family drama involved. I have some extended family, but considering they were all at the party and saw everything that happened, I doubt they'd be willing to take my side in this. Aunt Ruby might be an option since she seemed worried when she warned me about the video, but she has always been quite distant with family conflicts, so I don't know if she'd want to get involved. I've been looking for cheap rooms for rent, but prices are insane, and most require deposits that I just don't have. I could try to get a second job, but that would take time, and I only have a week. I feel like I'm running out of options, and honestly, I'm devastated. Not so much about leaving home, but by the fact that my parents were willing to kick me out so easily. I always knew they favored beaten, but I guess part of me hoped they still loved me enough not to abandon me like this. So, Reddit, any advice? What would you do in my situation? I'm open to anything at this point. Update 2. I know you've been asking about my story over the past 2 months, but please understand that I've been busy with more important things like finding a place to live. I haven't forgotten about you, and every day I thought that when my situation got a bit better, I would write an update. Still, my life hasn't improved much at all. There's always some fire to put out. After my parents kicked me out, I first asked Aunt Ruby if I could stay with her for a few months until I got my college results. She said no, she didn't have space, which is fine. I get it. But then I asked my grandparents, thinking they'd say yes because, they're my grandparents, and they basically told me the same thing. At that point, I was starting to panic. I had a job and some savings, but definitely not enough to get a place of my own. I was seriously considering sleeping in my car or crashing on strangers' couches. I was desperate. But then my amazing friend Brenda stepped in. She asked her parents if I could stay with them for a while, and they agreed. I had also talked with other friends before, and they all said the same thing my family did in one way or another. So Brenda was a lifesaver. I moved in with Brenda's family, and they have been super kind to me. They don't make me feel like a burden, even though I definitely feel like one sometimes. I try to help as much as I can, doing dishes, cooking, running errands, because the last thing I want is for them to regret giving me a chance. But then my parents decided that wasn't enough drama for them, so they started harassing Brenda's parents, literally cornering them at church to tell them they were ruining their plans by letting me stay. Apparently, they thought kicking me out would teach me a lesson, and Brenda's family was getting in the way of that plan. What was supposed to be the lesson? That I should accept being treated like garbage? That I should apologize for existing? Luckily, Brenda's parents are decent people and shut that down quickly. They told my parents that kicking out their own kid over such silly drama wasn't teaching any lesson. It was just cruel. Meanwhile, Betten got away with just a warning. My parents said they were going to cut her off if she didn't change her attitude, but of course they didn't do anything. She's still in the house, living her life, probably kissing more people. Not that I see anything wrong with kissing some people, but by my parents' standards, yes. But still, she doesn't need a lesson. Classic golden child treatment. And I won't lie, living with Brenda's family has been strange, not because of them. They've been great, but because I feel this weird mix of gratitude and guilt. I'm so thankful they took me in, but I still think, why did it have to come to this? Why did my own family kick me out so easily? It's hard not to let that mess with me. I've also been getting messages from Betten who keeps telling me she's going to ruin my life just like I ruined hers. Honestly, at first I thought she was just being dramatic. Sure, I exposed her secret Instagram, but let's be real, she wasn't an innocent victim in all this. At first I ignored her messages, but they kept coming. Some were just petty insults like, I hope you enjoy being a homeless loser, and others were completely unhinged like, I will make sure you regret messing with me. I don't even know what she thinks she can do, but the constant harassment affected me. I started feeling a knot of anxiety every time my phone vibrated, thinking it was another message from her. It got so bad that I actually started seeing a therapist. Admitting that I needed therapy was huge for me. My family has always been the type to think therapy is for weak people or those looking for excuses for their bad behavior. So even though I always knew I needed help, I had never considered it an option until now. But Brenda's parents were the ones who encouraged me, and it has helped a lot. Just when I was starting to take a little control over my life, of course, something had to go wrong. Last week, I got accepted to one of the colleges I applied to. It wasn't my first choice, but it was better than safety schools, so I was actually pretty excited. The problem? My formal acceptance letter and financial aid package were sent to my home address. This means I had to go back to my parents' house to pick it up. I knew it would be awkward, but I thought, okay, maybe they'd let me grab my things, at least they could pretend to be civilized for 5 minutes, right? Wrong. I arrived at the house and knocked. Nobody answered. I rang the doorbell. Nothing. I tried calling my mom, and it went straight to voicemail. So I knocked again, and again, and again. I stood outside for a full hour waiting. At one point, I even saw movement through the window, so I knew she was inside but was just refusing to open the door. How petty can you be? You kick your own daughter out, and then when she comes back for important documents, you ignore her? I was getting more and more frustrated, but I didn't want to start shouting outside like a crazy person, so I left. Now I have no idea what to do. My financial aid package is in that letter, and I need it. The university said they sent it through regular mail, so there's no tracking number or anything. I called them, and they said they could send me another, but it would take a couple of weeks, and I don't know if I have that time. I also don't know if my mom actually threw the letter away, or if she's just keeping it out of spite. Update 3. So yes, I ended up waiting for the second package because there really wasn't much more I could do. But of course, nothing in my life is simple. It's never simple. Turns out I still needed a bunch of things from my parents for my financial aid. Things like tax documents, signatures, proof of income. Everything that normal parents would just give their kid without turning it into a total war. But as we've established, my parents are not normal. At first, I tried asking them politely through messages. No response. I called and went straight to voicemail. Brenda even suggested I try to get one of my aunts to talk to them on my behalf, but Aunt Ruby barely wanted to help me when I needed a place to stay, and the rest of my family either didn't care or actively avoided me. So, I had to get creative, and that's when I realized where my parents would be on that Sunday, at church. Now, before you think I went in there and caused a dramatic scene like something out of a soap opera, I didn't. I just waited for the service to finish, approached them in front of the pastor, and started talking loudly. I was polite, respectful, but I made sure to make them feel uncomfortable. But in war, anything goes. I couldn't just let them think, should we make a scene in church or help her reluctantly? They decided to help. In summary, they handed me all the documents I needed. I got their signatures, checked everything before leaving, and guess what? That was it. I never have to deal with them again. I have everything I need to move on. Update 4. My mom had to make one last play before I left. I'm going to college tomorrow. I still can't believe it, but I'm excited and terrified at the same time. I was trying to be responsible, making a list of everything I needed to pack, and I realized I still had a lot of my stuff at the house. Clothes, blankets, and some personal things that really mean something to me. Normal stuff that any reasonable person would assume they could take. I texted my mom just to be polite. I wasn't even asking for permission. I just said, hey, I'm going to swing by and pick up the rest of my things. She left me on read, didn't even bother to respond. I should have known at that moment that she was going to pull something. The next day, I went over. The front door was unlocked, so I just walked in. I thought, well, it's still technically my house, right? I used to live there. My room was still my room. My stuff was still my stuff, or so I thought. I started packing without paying much attention to anything when suddenly my mom stormed into the room. She burst in like I was stealing the house. What do you think you're doing? She asked dramatically. I just looked at her holding a slightly crumpled sweatshirt in my hands. Packing? She crossed her arms and gave me that look, the mom look that means she's about to get angry. That's not yours, she said. I really laughed because I thought she was joking. I literally bought some of this stuff with my own money. My clothes, my books, my damn sheets. What was she talking about? But she wasn't joking. She said that since she and my dad had bought most of those things over the years, they belonged to them, and since I had decided to disrespect the family, I had no right to take anything. I stood there looking at her, trying to process what kind of madness I was living through, and then she just physically took my suitcase away from me, like she was punishing me like a little child, and told me to leave. I said, I can leave, but we'll see each other at the church. If I can't take my things that belong to me, I might as well involve the police, but I think the church will yield better results. She handed me back the suitcase and went back to the kitchen, huffing, because she knew she had lost. I managed to gather all my things and leave. The last few days have been a blur, packing, last-minute shopping, and getting organized. I haven't had much time even to sit down and write this. Brenda's family has been amazing. They even threw me a little farewell dinner last night. Update 5. I think this might be the first update where I don't have a problem of my own to report. There's always been something new going on with my family, but being so far away from them has made things resolve almost magically. Well, it's not really magic. It's just that removing toxicity pays off. But it's not going to be about my life and how happy I am. That would be a bit boring. Instead, I'll bring you the latest developments regarding my parents and my sister. You might notice I'm not saying my family anymore, because now there are two sides, my parents and my sister. You could look at this as bad luck or good luck, depending on how you analyze what happened at my birthday party almost a year ago. First, let me explain what happened now and then what I think. My parents had dinner a few nights ago with church friends. My dad had an emergency that required him to rush back home because, let's just say, he doesn't like using public restrooms. He needs to go at home, and more specifically, to visit his bathroom. But on his way to the bathroom in his room, he passed Betton's room and didn't find her kissing a boy or doing things that are reserved for marriage by my parents' standards. She was filming a video. You might think it was some silly TikTok dance following a choreography or some influencer-type video for Instagram, but no. Perhaps there was choreography. I can't ensure or deny that, but the video was for another platform. Something my dad discovered when he asked what she was doing wearing so little. My parents may be traditional, but they watch the news and know what OnlyFans is. So my dad immediately called my mom to come home as quickly as possible to confront their daughter. I always thought my parents could forgive anything Betton did, but I guess they too have a limit, and that limit is this kind of content. The decision they took with her was to kick her out of the house. She studies at a local university, so she still lived with them until this incident. So how do I know all this? Because I received a message from what seemed like the best sister in the world, asking if she could move in with me. She told me everything and asked if she could live with me in my university room for a while. Although I would have loved to have her with me, I'm being sarcastic, the truth is I can't let anyone live there. I have a roommate, and the place is big enough for us not to bump into each other when we're both there. So no, I don't want, nor can I have her here, especially making content. My question is, why didn't she look for a place for herself if she thought people on that platform made good money? But she told me she was just getting some money to go partying and that she did it for fun. She had moved in with a friend, but things didn't end there. Not by a long shot. By the time she contacted me asking if she could stay with me, her friend didn't have enough space, and she didn't want her filming that stuff in her house either. She also told me what she did to my parents before asking me what was the last option on her list. She went to church on Sunday, like I did once. She knew what had happened and how it worked for me, so she used my tactic to return to living in my parents' house. But my parents couldn't corner her into a place where they could be alone to talk before she mentioned H-fans in front of several people. The conversation wasn't in whispers. When everything was revealed, they started a loud screaming match that made the pastor end the discussion. I don't know if it was about OnlyFans or the fight, but Brenda told me that my parents were asked to find another church. So I've had a lot of bad luck because I couldn't find her OnlyFans account, which would have been an even bigger revenge, but a lot of good luck because things would have escalated even worse for me. I probably would have been kicked out of the house again. So things would have been similar, but at least I would have had the satisfaction of doing it.